And I want to kick off with this evolving crisis in Melbourne. And of course, if we go to the Herald Sun and the Age, we're going to go to both, Caleb, both of them with very, very strong front pages, as you'd expect in the grip of this pandemic. The Herald Sun, 166 days and counting the cost. $26 billion cost to Victoria, $143 million a day. 5.5 months of lockdown, New South Wales, 45 days. 23 weeks of school lost, New South Wales, 7 weeks. Businesses despair as city shutdown runs for at least another week. Reprieve for regions, hinges on test results, and experts call for calm over super contagious beast claim by Chief Health Officer. Now, if we go to the Age, no evidence virus strain is a beast, says scientists. The COVID-19 strain at the centre of the outbreak that has forced Melbourne into a second week of lockdown is not moving faster than other variants of the virus or spreading in new, unexpected ways, Australia's Peak Pandemic Advisory Group has found, which is in stark contrast to Brett Sutton's comments that it is a beast. What do you think of the politics, the background to this type of language being used by the CHO, Caleb, and how do you think it plays out with the greater public in Victoria?
Well, this is really the story, isn't it? You have top experts that are saying that all of this nonsense about this being a super strain, about it moving faster than the normal coronavirus, that it will infect more people, etc., more virulent, is false, which flies obviously in the face of the supposed public health advice that we have received from Brett Sutton. It's exactly the same as what happened in South Australia last November, December, when we had a fellow who claimed that he had caught coronavirus from a pizza box, and we were then talking about the UK strain of the virus, and we plunged ourselves into a short lockdown, albeit 3 days. It's not like they're having in Melbourne, but we went into a short lockdown over the belief that there was this super virulent strain of coronavirus, at the same time as experts were saying, no, there is no evidence that any of these new strains of coronavirus are more virulent than the one that came out of China. Despite that, you have the acting Premier, James Merlino, standing up today, straight-faced, telling the Victorian public that if they don't have this lockdown in Melbourne, then people will die. That is fear-mongering, plain and simple. There is no other way to describe it, and there is really no excuse for that kind of thing. You have to seriously ask, how genuine is this quote-unquote public health advice when it is different in every single state, when it varies from one doctor to another or one chief public health officer to another? We know that New South Wales has done exceptionally well with a far more cautious approach to lockdowns and policy when it comes to coronavirus. They've not had mass outbreaks, and the outbreaks they've had, they've managed without going into strict lockdowns. Victoria, for some reason, doesn't seem to be able to do that. Western Australia has similarly demonstrated that it doesn't seem to be able to do that. I suspect that this is starting to wear thin with the Victorian public. It was okay the first time. So. It was okay the second time, right? I think now, from what I am seeing, people are starting to question this. And even towards the end of that 100-odd day lockdown that they had in Melbourne last year, even the most staunch Dan Andrews supporters were starting to say, come on, this does not need to continue. And I think people will be asking the same questions here. Is there a legitimate excuse to have lockdowns like this, to be fear-mongering, saying that people are going to die when the experts say that is rubbish?
Caleb, the problem is that most Conservative voters are leaving. It'll leave all the socialists down there to vote them back in.